Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday morning. Today is Saturday, September 18th, 2021. We're going to talk about something important today. We're going to talk about something you're going to learn today. And I'm going to just do a real light history lesson. I'm going to start at the beginning of our country, right here at the foundation of our country in 1607. And then we're going to drift all the way down the timeline. As we go all the way down the timeline, we're going to go all the way to 2021. If it's your first time on my page, I suspect you go to my YouTube page, Delete Laws, or my website, Delete Laws. Delete Laws. And by the way, the person who said, I'm a weirdo, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I really try to be different. I try to be different than other people, so that often will get me called weird. It is what it is. I sell a copy of this wall graphic on my website, Delete Laws. I also have an ebook on my website, Delete Laws. Every Saturday and Sunday, I try to sell as many as I can, and I give away about 10 to 1. So if you don't have any money, then just go ahead and send me a DM through my website, Delete Laws, and I'll give it to you totally for free, because I want you to learn the information. So what I teach specifically is Supreme Court stuff. Supreme Court stuff. And I go in great detail because in 2001, Chief of Police Michael Moore no-knock raided my apartment here in Hollywood, California. I am in beautiful West Hollywood, California. This is what I do for a living. I teach constitutional law so that you truly understand the origins of how you lost your rights. That's specifically what I teach. I don't teach you necessarily, what I like to say is it's called conceptual analyses, because it's easy to say, this is what happened in 1919, this is what happened in 1920, but it's a lot more in-depth for you as someone who's watching and learning from a stranger if I'm able to take multiple factors from 1920, like how many lynchings there were, who the president was, what specific Supreme Court holdings were being held, and who was on the Supreme Court, and who appointed those Supreme Court personnel, and what year were they born, because that has a real relevance. The year you were born is going to form who you are as a human being. We can see the gigantic generational divide right now just between Gen X and Gen Z. Gen Z grew up with a screen. Gen X was told to go outside and play in the trees. We have gigantic, vast differences, all depending on the year that we were born. And so what I'm going to teach you guys is called conceptual analysis of history. And that's very important. So last time I'll say this, if you guys want to learn more, go to my YouTube page, Delete and Laws. It's 2 words. You can go to my website, Delete and Laws, and get a copy of this wall graphic, get an ebook that I sell on there, and if you cannot afford either one, I will give them to you for free, because I want you to learn the constitutionality of law. So you understand how we got there. So now let me give you guys a little bit of a once-over, but before I do that, just type down in there for me where you guys are from. Type down in there where you're from. Type down in there. Just say where you guys are from so I know. So I have an idea where everybody is. Are you in the United States? Are you in Sweden? Are you in France? I get a DM or a phone call every day from around the world. I just saw your video in Germany. I just saw your video in France. So the message is getting out. The message is getting out. And now with 1,000 people in here, if you guys would just do me a favor, because this is what I do for a living. I teach constitutional law. This is literally what I do every day. Just take your finger and just tap the screen for me, if you would, please. It's free for you to tap the screen, but for me, it does a lot of good. For me, it really helps me project the message that I can get out there. Because what I really teach is that we need to overturn Terry versus Ohio, and we need to elect the Supreme Court. If you guys haven't noticed, we have a Supreme Court problem in America. We have a major Supreme Court problem in America. And so what I've done on this wall graphic for you guys is I've laid out every single Supreme Court that we've had since the beginning of our Bill of Rights, starting with the John Jay Court, the John Marshall Court, the Roger Taney Court, the Salmon Chase Court, and down the line all the way along the top there until you get to the John Roberts Court. So then what you can do to teach yourself conceptual analyses without having me to be standing in front of you, then you can just take a look at the Taft Court, the William Howard Taft Court, from 1921 to 1930. And then you take a look at the Supreme Court holdings that happened from 1921 to 1930. And that will give you a barometer, a light simple contextual analyses of understanding the cultural context of history and not just some simple facts. If anybody ever comes to me with a fact, you will be pushed back rather quickly because facts don't really matter in historical context. You can and I did this example the other day, and I want to show you guys how important conceptual analysis actually is. Because you can easily say in the year 1935, there was 20 people lynched in the United States of America. You could say that, and that's true. But you would also then say, I'm sorry guys, you would also then say, in the year 1935, there was 20 lynchings. This is going to be the worst of it. It's going to get better from here. I mean, I know that's an astounding number. Don't think I think that's small. It's disgusting. But then as you move down the history of timeline, we start to get goose eggs in the white population, and black people are still being lynched, but the numbers are going to drop dramatically. So if you say that there was 20 people lynched in 1935 to someone who knows history, what they'll say to you is man, and that was going to be the worst of it as far as like public lynchings where everybody went out into the world and like celebrated people being lynched. And that was a big part of the cultural context, of the conceptual analysis of understanding history. Remember, lynchings were very popular. Lynchings were a very popular event. If they weren't so popular and people didn't like to go to them, like it was the Roman Emperor, like the Roman Empire, then there wouldn't be a lynching chart. If human beings who were a part of the culture at that time didn't enjoy going to lynchings and didn't enjoy being a part of it, then you wouldn't have a lynching chart that goes that long, that hard. If people didn't enjoy lynchings, then the 1870 Enforcement Act that was supposed to accompany the 15th Amendment that specifically said KKK members are not allowed to kill black people to depress the vote. But that's exactly what they did in the Colfax Massacre of 1873. So what I'm trying to get to here is that when you understand conceptual analysis by understanding multiple points in history, then you start to be able to paint a picture and you can start to form theory and understand what was going on in our country exactly. So now people are right now very upset with the Supreme Court because of Senate Bill 8. And so this is going to be like the lightning fastest definition of civics, of a civics lesson. I'm going to do this in less than 60 seconds. So we elect Congress, we elect the president, and then we don't elect the Supreme Court. If you're in Texas, Texas Senate legislature wrote Senate Bill 8, the governor signed it, and then the Texas Supreme Court cannot strike down the constitutionality of it. They can strike down that it goes against the Texas state constitution. So in federally, Congress, the president signs the law, they write the laws, and then these guys can strike them down. So in other words, the Supreme Court can strike down laws that two bodies who we vote for wrote and signed. That's the power of the Supreme Court. That's the problem. That's the problem. You should not have 9 unelected people who are in charge of our civil liberties who are going to then be able to strike down legislation that the people have voted for. The people have a Democratic representative. You will elect a Democratic representative. That's part of our Bill of Rights. Democratic representative means that you have a representative, that democracy, you democratically vote for a representative. That's what that means. You democratically vote in an area. I'm here in West Hollywood. We democratically vote for numbers, and then we get 1 representative or 2, or however many are here, mayor, whatever it is, city council, whatever it's going to be. So now you understand this. This is how it works. So now, just so you know, just a little fun fact to put in your pipe here is we elect our Congress, right? You elect senators and you elect House of Representatives, right? You know that, don't you? And that's been going on for how long? Since the beginning, right? Wrong. Since the year 1913. We did not elect senators until the year 1913. So then you ask yourself a fundamental question, and it's only 3 letters. Why? Why do we elect senators in the year 1913? It certainly didn't say we elect senators here. So how come 150 years later we're electing senators instead of them being appointed by members of the House who we vote for. Because once removed doesn't work for the people. Let me give you a good example. You come here to West Hollywood and you're like, hey, Chili, I'm in town. And I say to you, oh man, great, I can't wait to see you. And then you come into town the next day and you call me and say, Chili, where are you? And I say, dude, I'm so sorry, I'm not there. But let me give you my friend Pete's number. Call Pete when you get here. Pete's gonna look out for you while you're in LA. Really? Do you think Pete's gonna look out for you the same way that I'm gonna look out for you? Not at all, because it's one person removed. And so now let's put that in perspective about one person removed, like I just said. Let's make it really, really crystal clear. Sorry about that. The mirroring effect on the camera for me messes me up, and I'm only as smart as constitutional law and everything else. I'm just a regular old moron, a peon. So now I just said that the president appoints Supreme Court personnel, right? And you vote for the president, but you don't vote for the president. You know that you don't vote for the president. Going all the way back to George Washington, right down here, he's listed here, and then you go all the way down here to Joe Biden and to Donald Trump. You didn't pick that person. Trump isn't your president. Biden isn't your president. That's the super elitists. They pick that person. The billionaires, the people who pay for the government, the people who pay for the campaigns of the government. That's who picked the elitists, who picked the Supreme Court. So not only are we once removed from people who are in charge of our civil liberties, so these people that I keep talking about, there's a very specific reason why I'm speaking about them so much. It's because they are in charge of our Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the reason why you have a right to life, the right to press, the right to assemble, the right to own a gun, the right to due process. These fundamentals in your life, liberty, Second Amendment, private property, due process, democratic, those only exist, and I'm being honest with you, you only have those because of that Bill of Rights. You don't have it without those. It does not exist for you. And we know this, and why do we know this to be factual? That if your Bill of Rights is suspended, you don't have a right to live. Because in the Cruikshank case of 1876, when the unelected group of people who we don't vote for, who are one person removed from the person we don't vote for either, they upheld Cruikshank that said that the federal government could not ensure your Bill of Rights, could not do it. And so what happened was lynchings for decades and decades and decades and decades. You can directly correlate Supreme Court holdings to how many lynchings there were. So in the Pace versus Alabama case of 1883, the Supreme Court, the people we don't elect, who have no relationship to you and I, they're super elite rich people, what they said in Pace versus Alabama, Ivy League educated individuals. They said that Orlando Pace and Mary Cox were living in fornication and adultery and put them in prison because they were black and white. So that's 1883. 1884, when you check the lynching graph, there's 160 white people lynched in 1884 compared to 51 black people. It's not a comparison. What I'm trying to say is you have far more white people being lynched, and why? Why in 1884 do you have 160, the most in NAACP history of white people being lynched in 1 year? Well, because the Supreme Court said it's illegal for you to live with a black person or a white person. It's illegal for you to have a relationship with them. When these guys criminalize it, and by the way, over the past couple days, I've been deep diving, just binging on any Supreme Court interview. I found a Hugo Black interview on YouTube, just binge watching these Supreme Court personnel interviews. Let me tell you something. I've never been more disgusted. When you watch them and you're looking at the person and not trying to look at them like they're some savior for us, when you look at them as a human being and you're listening to what they're saying and you're thinking at that from a selfish perspective instead of like, oh, this some person is some wise, great human being. No, they're not. They're an elitist who was appointed. This was a super elitist who was appointed. And then they act like, oh, I'm so great. No, dude, your family was super rich, you were majorly connected politically, and now you sit on a Supreme Court, which, by the way, has been overran by Christian fundamentalists. God bless you if you're Christian. Your religion, since the beginning of time, has ultimately caused a lot of problems. And now we're facing another large problem. We're facing another large problem because of Senate Bill 8. And it's going to be a huge problem constitutionally. I'm not saying about pro-life or pro-choice. So anyway, go buy my website, guys. I got to sell 5 or 10 of these a day so I can give away 50 or 100. So go buy and get a wall graphic on my website, Delete Laws. Go to my YouTube page, Delete Laws, and learn more information. Get my ebook, same thing. The ebook's for kids, people. It's for kids. And the reason it's for kids is so you read it to children, so that children understand that the Supreme Court's the problem. You and I'm old. I'm over 40. The fact of me seeing the Supreme Court solved in my lifetime, maybe. I'd probably die, according to history. According to history, because remember, I just talked about Pace versus Alabama, right? I just talked about that, didn't I? So you think that this ended, like, man, interracial dating and marriage since the beginning of time. I've been attracted to darker skin than mine. Since the very beginning of time, I've been attracted to brown women, whether they be Filipino or black or mulatto, and white women. I've been attracted to all women, but here's my point. The point is, though, you figure in 1883 that this would come to an end quickly. Especially after 1884, when 160 white people get lynched, you figure, man, that's going to change, right? No. This lasts from 1883 until 1967 in Loving versus Virginia. So in other words, all of these tyrants here, all the tyrants who passed Pace versus Alabama that says you can't have a black girlfriend, are you kidding me? They say you can't have a black girlfriend or a black boyfriend, right? It lasts till 1967? And all these losers have to be dead before these losers will overrule it? Are you kidding me? You mean that your children will live an entire life in tyranny? Yes. If we don't elect these tyrants, we're screwed. We're screwed. Do you understand that? It's only going to get worse. You think Senate Bill 8? Senate Bill 8 was the beginning. It was the very start of what this Supreme Court's going to do. Trust me, follow me, listen to what I'm telling you. The elitists already know what I'm saying. The Ian Millhisers and the Noah Feldmans and the 5-4 podcast and there's so many people who know what I know. You know who doesn't know? Us peons. Us peons don't know. Well, fortunately for my 20 years of study on the Supreme Court and the pandemic giving me the opportunity to deep dive into Supreme Court personnel over the last 117 that we've had, how many have been good? 3. We've had 3 decent Supreme Court personnel. I don't call them justices, and you shouldn't either. They're unelected, elitists appointed. Come on. Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch went to the same Georgetown prep school. Have you ever heard of Georgetown prep school? They're both Supreme Court clerks. They were groomed to do this. They're fundamental Christians. Which means they're going to rule with a Christian perspective instead of a constitutional perspective. It would be the same, I would have the same problem with Judaism or Islam or any other religion that's going to push their religion on the Supreme Court instead of the Constitution. You have nothing in common with them. You've never even heard of Georgetown Prep. Be honest. Hunter, what is it called? Hunter High in Manhattan. You ever heard of Hunter High? Have you ever heard of Hunter High? Do you know how much tuition is at Hunter High? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea how much it is? You guys ever heard of that company called Roundup? Roundup? Don't you always see those ads? Roundup, Monsanto lawyer, Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas, not bright, got to Yale with affirmative action, probably one of the dumbest people who's ever been on the Supreme Court. And if you're a person of color, he hates you. He hates you. He's the most negative person I've ever. And now he just came out with an article yesterday that said the Supreme Court's the most dangerous branch of government. What do you think you did, bro? What do you think you've been doing on the Supreme Court for 25 years? You've been ruining it. 30 years now? I mean, look how long. Let me ask you a question. So this is the breakdown of how marijuana is illegal in our country. This is the breakdown. This is 3 different cases. This is the Lopez case, the Morrison case, and the Gonzalez versus Wright case. And the reason why you have to know this, and this is why it's in my ebook, this is why you have to know this, And the reason why when someone talks about Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Scalia or any of these people with any kind of reverence, any kind of respect, just understand that they have their own agenda and they will go against their own values constitutionally if it fits their agenda. Let me tell you how marijuana is illegal today. The reason why there's still states fighting to get it off the Schedule 1 is because Scalia, he voted not to use the Commerce Clause in Lopez. Doesn't matter what it is, just follow. And then in Morrison, he voted again not to use the Commerce Clause. This one's about guns. This one's against the Violence Against Women's Act. He fundamentally believed you shouldn't use the Commerce Clause to create law against Americans. And then in Gonzalez versus Reich, Scalia switches sides and he votes with Ruth Bader Ginsburg to make sure marijuana is illegal. Ruth Bader Ginsburg voted to keep marijuana illegal. That was 2005. The number one crime in America today is marijuana. The number one reason why someone will go to the dungeon in your city, state, or town is marijuana today. That's the reason why. And Ruth and Anthony colluded together to make sure that marijuana would stay illegal. But yet everybody celebrates them. Why? Why? Go by my website, guys, Saturday, Sunday. I got to sell as many wall graphics as I can and ebooks as I possibly can so that I can stay focused during the week and study to how to overturn this damn Supreme Court. That's what we have to do. And I need to stay focused, and I got to do just that until I'm dead. And I have to do it every single day. And I have to create connections with other people. I would love to get to Kim Kardashian. She just quit law school, but she has a bigger value legally. Justice-wise, I would love to get to Kim Kardashian. If I could meet with her using her popularity with my Supreme Court brain, I have an apparatus I could build with Kim Kardashian that would be a justice system that would get at least 100 to 500 people out of prison every single year. If I could meet with Kim Kardashian. If I could. Where are you guys at? Where are you guys from? Where are you guys from? Where are you guys from? Where are you guys at? Where is everybody at? I'm so sorry. Here, you guys, here's my shameless, I'm sorry. I hate to do it. I have to. Here's my Venmo and my Cash App. If you guys want to buy me a cup of coffee, take a screenshot. You're welcome to buy me a cup of coffee right there. Take a screenshot with your phone. Just push on the sides right there if you're as old as I am and you don't know. And if you're young, you know how to take a screenshot. Don't go crazy here. Don't go crazy. I'm not trying to get rich off you people. I just want to keep doing this until we overturn Terry versus Ohio. So now, when you get to the Supreme Court, so now I'm going to show you a couple of parallels that are going to help you build a better understanding of how this Supreme Court has continually worked against you and me and our freedoms and our ability to be free since the very, very beginning. And you have to understand this. So history has repeated itself, and the reason why I built this giant graphic is so that I could show you guys how exactly history has repeated itself so that you have the knowledge, so that you can tell your friends, we need to overturn Terry versus Ohio. That's the tip of the spear for every single interaction people have with police on the street. Terry is the tip of the spear where cops can walk up to you and say, I'm suspicious of you. So let me show you 2 or 3 parallels, and then I'm going to jump right into exactly how Terry affects you on the street. Specifically, the interaction between police and citizen, how it begins, when it begins, and exactly what steps you should take the moment you interact with a police officer. There is exact steps, exact wording that you should use when you interact with a police officer at any time ever. Remember, a police officer is always investigating. Always, always, always. So you have to interact with him as though he's always investigating at all times. So now if you take a look, see these bars right here, these green bars? These green bars are going to happen in 1868, 1865, and 1870. You see the green bars, they stand out. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. You see the years. And now when we slide down right here and we come down here, you see another set of green bars. And so you say, why are there parallel green bars? And again, 1865, 1964, 1868, 1965, 1870, 1968. 3 green bars, 3 over there. There should be 3, but I wanted to get Terry big, so I didn't add the extra big green bar. But here's my point. These green bars are a repetition of similar legislation passed 100 years apart. And specifically, what the 1964 Civil Rights Act actually does. I'm being very specific here, and that's the most important part. Is it overrules the Cruikshank ruling of 1876. And the Cruikshank ruling says that the Supreme Court has held that the federal government doesn't have to uphold your Bill of Rights. And we went over this already, what that caused. And so then right here, what the 64 Civil Rights Act, what it does. You can say that you can't discriminate against anybody based on race, but the biggest thing that the 64 Civil Rights Act does is says that your civil rights have to be applied. That's the big whopper. So Cruikshank says that your rights do not have to be applied, and then the Civil Rights Act says, no, sorry, Supreme Court. John F. Kennedy has written an act that Lyndon Johnson will sign into effect after he's assassinated in front of millions of people in Dallas, Texas. But then this act, which is a civil right, not a civil liberty, what it's going to do is it's going to overrule Cruikshank. And for that, and for him overruling Cruikshank, overruling the most elite people from the most elite families all over the world, right? Because these people are attached to you have no idea. So then what happens is John F. Kennedy, he dies. He's assassinated. Who assassinated him? Lee Harvey Oswald did it. Just trying to make sure I only teach facts on this channel. So now there's your parallels, right? Now here's going to be your next parallel, and I'm going to get into the exact specific steps that you have to take when you interact with a police officer because of Terry versus Ohio. So as you may well have figured out by now, the parallel with the green bars is Cruikshank. And the parallel with the green bars over here is Terry. And what happens from Cruikshank after the green bars here is it looks like this lynching chart here. And then what happens after the green bars here, you get Terry, and that's what happens. It's just a different form of lynching. It's a prison system. And then death laws, the death laws that will attach to Terry. And this is why you absolutely have got to know how to speak to police. Because the Terry laws that are created from the Supreme Court, remember what I told you earlier, Congress writes laws, president signs them. Terry was never written in legislation. No House of Representative or Senator ever wrote the Terry laws. That never happened. It didn't happen. So it was just invented by the Supreme tyrannical court that we don't elect, of course. I mean, I got to be honest, I'm firing pearls today. You have to hear what I'm saying. If we don't elect these losers, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. So now I'm going to get into the specifics. Like I said, I can always get ripped off target because I have severe ADHD. So I'm going to try to stay as focused as I possibly can for you guys. So now what we're looking at here is a Terry stop. So I've gone over the fundamentals. How many first timers here? How many second timers here? First or second? Any first or second timers here? Any first or second? Any first or second timers here? Any first or second timers here? Just let me know. Third timers, first time, second time. First, second, first. Fifth. Second. First. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you coming by. Thank you for the regulars. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate you. Oh, you come regularly? Thank you. I appreciate you coming by. Thank you. I appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. I really do. So just eighth time, just so I don't bore us too. And a lot of first timers in. It's amazing that I've only been on social media for 3 months. This is the 20th is my 90th day on social media. So would love to get a beer with you. Would love to. So now let's talk about some specificity here because I want you guys to truly understand exactly the reason why, and some of my regulars here, you've never heard me say this before. So this will be an all new lesson for people who have been here, 8 times, 10 times. And this is something I was thinking about last night when I was going over all the videos that start off as Terry stops that people call walking while black or shopping while black. All of those things that you hear called shopping while black or dog walking while black, and they have to interact with a police officer, then that is a Terry stop. I just want to be clear on that. So that you recognize them clearly. When you see a police officer stopping a gentleman and saying, hey, I'd like to see your identification, that's a Terry stop because there's no probable cause. So now let's talk a little bit about now if you guys don't know who the Pop Brothers at Law are, I really want to make sure that you guys pop over and check out the Pop Brothers at Law because they have a 25-word script that they have down to perfection. I really have it memorized, but if I mess it up in any way, I want you guys to know the Pop Brothers at Law have a 25-word script that they have a sticker for that you can get a sticker and stick on your visor. So if you get pulled over, you stick to this 25-word script. And the reason why they've invented that script is because of Terry versus Ohio. Terry versus Ohio says that an officer's reasonable suspicion is enough to detain you. Detainment means a POW style of arrest upon interaction with you. So how do you avoid that? Number one, if you don't want to be Terry stopped and you're an auditor or you're on the street and you're not stuck in your car, there's a real simple way is to pull your shirt up and show the officer that you're not armed. Officer, I don't have any weapons. You pull your shirt up and you go, I don't have any weapons. And after you identify, you like this, and then you say, now you cannot touch me, because a Terry stop is only for officer safety. However, that officer safety equals a POW style arrest of you upon suspicion. So when you interact with a police officer and he says, hey, let me see some ID, you ask the officer a question. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Because he's investigating you whether you like it or not. As soon as the cop starts talking to you, he's investigating you. And there's all kinds of videos on YouTube of police officers teaching other police officers how to build what they now call RAS. Instead of the probable cause standard of why a police officer can interact with you, they call RAS. Reasonable articulable suspicion is called RAS from Terry v. Ohio. And they call it building RAS, building reasonable. So now, since the standard is reasonable suspicion, now cops teach other cops how to build up reasonable suspicion. Not there's actually something crazy here going on. They're trying to build it up so they can investigate you. Understand, that's what's happening. So this goes fundamentally against your Fourth Amendment right, which is the right of the people to be free in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. And this is what Terry does. This is your Fourth Amendment. Like we've been talking about this all day today. We've been talking about how the Supreme Court's supposed to defend your Bill of Rights at all costs. That's what we've been talking about all day today, right? So this is your fourth one. The first, when I point at this other one over here, this is just one of the 10. So this is the number 4. So this Bill of Rights right here, number 4 that you're looking at right there, every single amendment on there, besides quartering troops, which is the Third Amendment, every one of those amendments has been superseded by Terry versus Ohio. You've lost every single right you have with one holding called Terry versus Ohio. It stripped all your rights. It stripped every right you have. So of course, I said it stripped, so your First Amendment right to life is plain as day. You have a right to life in the United States of America. Now, in Tennessee versus Garner, the Supreme Tyranny, they said, yeah, you're right. We uphold that you have a right to life, and cops can't shoot you in the back of the head when you're running away because you have a right to life. And then they said, well, unless it's in the name of officer safety. And remember what Terry does fundamentally. It puts officer safety over your rights. So if Tennessee versus Garner says that you do have a First Amendment right to life, unless it's in the name of officer safety, well then Terry v. Ohio has been added to our Bill of Rights. Plain and simple, it's been added to our Bill of Rights. If officer safety is the reason why you can be shot in the back of the head as you run away, then officer safety has been included now and supersedes every right that we hold. It's just a simple fact. You can't see it any other way. So how do the Supreme Tyranny uphold that you have a right to life and therefore police cannot shoot you in the back as you run away, and then put the caveat word unless? Unless. And then, remember, unless it's in the name of officer safety. So what does that actually mean in constitutionality terms? How can you specifically break down what I just said when you regard that to the Fourth Amendment? and I will show you exactly how that works. So when you've been shot in the back of the head by police when you're running away because you're afraid of police and you don't want to fight them, even if you have a gun, you still don't want to fight the police because there's too many guns and there's too many people, and it's just a bad idea to fight the police. It's a very bad idea. It's a very bad idea. And so if you do happen to be running away, the reason why the police can shoot you in the back of the head as you run away in the name of officer safety is because that's considered reasonable. The Supreme Court, the way they screw us out of our rights is they say it's a reasonableness standard. It's reasonable. If you're running away from the police and they think that maybe they're in fear for their life, then it's reasonable that they shoot you in the back of the head. That's how the Supreme Court goes around our rights. What's their job again? To uphold and defend our rights at all costs. That's the Supreme Court's job. But then they can reasonably say that police can shoot you in the back of the head if it's in the name of their safety. Then you might as well just put right here, the Fourth Amendment is the right of officer safety. And then after that, the people have these rights. Or it starts off with the Fourth Amendment is in the name of officer safety, and then the people to be secure in their person if it's not against officer safety. And you can be secure in your home as long as officer safety is not in question. So what do I mean when I say that you can be secure in your home if it's not in the name of officer safety? There's another holding here, another Supreme Court case that's going to say that you have a right to be secure in your home unless officer safety is in question. And so this is what I'm trying to explain, and I keep saying it over and over and over like a broken record. Wilson versus Arkansas, the Supreme Court said that you have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your home, and the police are not allowed to no-knock raid your home unless it's in the name of officer safety. I'm not making this up. It's in my ebook, directly cut from the Supreme Court holding. I didn't write any of the words in the ebook. It comes directly from the Supreme Court. The Wilson versus Arkansas holding, that's what the Supreme Court, what they hold to be constitutional. What they held is that police cannot no-knock raid your home. That you have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your home unless it's in the name of officer safety. Show me where it says that. I'm a layperson. I'm no smarter than anybody watching this. You and I are the same amount of smarts, or you're smarter than me. I've just done a little bit more research and put it on a wall. But I guarantee you, you're as sharp as I am, and then some. You are as intelligent, and you are as apt to be able to learn new information as me. So Wilson versus Arkansas, upheld by the supreme tyrannists who we do not elect, they do not represent us, they work against us. They say here, the right of the people to be secure in their houses, unless officer safety is in question. Unless officer safety. Well, what happens when that happens? Well, then the police can no-knock raid your home, and maybe you guys have heard of this woman named Breonna Taylor. Maybe you heard of her before? I'm not sure if you guys know this or not. But the reason why the police officers were not charged for crimes is because of a Supreme Court holding called Wilson versus Arkansas. What the police did to Breonna Taylor was legal. The police did not break the law. They shot extra bullets that missed Breonna, and that was the law they broke. That was the law that they broke. The police broke the law because instead of just shooting Breonna and shooting her boyfriend, when they shot those extra bullets, that was the law breaking that because there was no Supreme Court holding for the extra bullets. You see that? Because when they beat on Breonna Taylor's boyfriend's door, I don't even think they knocked. I think they just kicked the door up and started shooting, right? But now it's legal. The police officers who shot Breonna legally shot her. The Supreme Court said, now that you guys know this information, I just want an honest show of hands here, yes or no. If you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, just an honest show of hands. How many people have said here before, in this room right here with the couple hundred people that are here, how many people have said, the Supreme Court said, how many people have said that? I did for a long time. How many people have said, the Supreme Court said. How many people have said that before? Like as though they were spitting out knowledge from a group of wise, intelligent, Ivy League educated elitists who have upheld the constitutionality of this particular thing that's going to strip you of your rights. How many people have said, the Supreme Court ruled, the Supreme Court said? We've been duped, my friends. We've been duped. We've been duped and we've been lied to. We've been duped and we've been lied to. These people are not representing us at all. 70% of people are pro-choice. Whether you're not, that's fine. But 70% of people are. The Supreme Court not taking up the case of Texas, they shit on their own duties. Civil libertarians wrote into them and said, you need to take this case up. And they ignored them. So they're horrifically bad people who are monarchs that we don't vote for. You guys go by my website, deletelaws.com, and get my graphic, please. Get this ebook. If you can buy it, buy it. If you can't, I'll give it to you for free. Just go through and register right there and send me a note. Chili, I need it for free. I'll send it to you for free. If you can buy it, thanks for buying it. Thank you. Thank you. Really, I really mean it. This is all I do for a living, and I'm going to be standing here until we overturn Terry versus Ohio. So I talked a little bit. Let me zoom into this. Venmo, Cash App. You could buy me a cup of coffee right there. Instagram, YouTubers, ton of you guys, so many people on Instagram and YouTube watch this. Feel free, even if you're watching this a week later, you're welcome to buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. No, what the book is, and just so you know, you saw a page of it here. So you guys know why George Floyd was killed? Do you guys know why George Floyd was murdered? Does anybody know the Supreme Court holding? The Supreme Court case that specifically allowed George Floyd to be murdered? There's one case that allowed George Floyd to be murdered. Does anybody know what it is? Of course, it was Terry. It was Terry v. Ohio. But there's another case that you could. Terry v. Ohio is what allows police to throw you on the ground and stick their knees in your neck. And here's the reason why that is, just so you know. So if you wonder why, if you're like, why can police do a POW style of arrest upon me when they're just suspicious of me? Right? Don't you always think that? When you see the police with their guns pointed at someone and they're screaming and they got the guy in handcuffs and they're on top of him, and I'm watching the whole thing, I'm filming it, and then 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, they let him go, right? Let me just tell you, that happened to me a lot. So just so you know, the PTSD doesn't go away after that. You're still walking around feeling this negativity towards police officers for some time to come. And so I'm gonna get that, but I've just got to get a sip of water here. I'm not gonna make it. I won't make it without some water here. I have any water up here? Coffee won't do it. So when you guys interact with police officers, because of the Terry stop, and I'm going to get into the physicality of what Terry does, you guys can only say these words: am I being detained or am I free to go? That's all you ever say. And if they say you're being detained, then you say, then I invoke the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Am I being detained or am I free to go? And that's really all you'll ever say. Don't ever say anything else. Where are you going tonight? I don't answer questions. That's the only thing you say. I don't answer questions. Am I being detained or am I free to go? You never say anything else, ever. If you haven't audited hundreds and hundreds of police officers, if you haven't had a face-to-face encounter with hundreds and hundreds of police officers, then you invoke your rights. You do not have a conversation with police ever, 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 ever. I just gave you the lines. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Where are you heading? I don't answer questions. Did you move to this new address? I don't answer questions. Well, I have to be able to mail you the summons. I don't answer questions. You have my identification. You have my proof of insurance. Well, there's a high crime area. I invoke the Fifth Amendment right. I'd like to see my lawyer. You do not ever, ever, ever speak to police. You don't know all the laws. You don't understand how they work. And if you do, Bless you. Teach others. Teach others. Exactly what I'm teaching you now. I'm sorry I wasn't going to make it. But I want to get into the physicality because we've all watched and seen police officers jump on top of people with their knees and put them in handcuffs and hurt them. We've seen that time and time again, which is the reason why it's really hard to hold any admiration for people who sign up when you can all take a look at YouTube and you can truly see how that apparatus works. I wouldn't sign up for that if you offered me $1 million a year. I couldn't do that to other people. So that's me. So when people do sign up to do those kinds of things, I often think to myself, what kind of person are you? You can watch on YouTube, you can see what's going on, you can see how the policies and procedures are set. Why would I ever sign up to be a part of that? So now when we get into Terry here, I'm going to get into exactly, sorry about that. So now here's the important part that you're going to start to learn a little bit here of information that you didn't know before. Because I always want to teach you guys new stuff. So the reason why police can hurt you. So say that you guys all, who saw that McDonald's worker the other day? Did anybody see that McDonald's worker the other day that was put down on his knees? Yes, I saw him. No, I didn't. Can you type that down there for me? YouTube, Instagram, if you're watching this on YouTube or Instagram, can you just type down there for me, pretty please? If you saw that McDonald's worker they had guns to his head, and I think they eventually jumped on top of them with their knees, stuck knees in his neck, put him in handcuffs, held him in handcuffs, even after the other employees were saying that. A young black man was at McDonald's collecting his paycheck, God bless him, working at McDonald's, you know, and he goes to pick up his paycheck, and when he comes outside, there's been a robbery somewhere in the area, and so the way they're going to solve the robbery is by treating everybody with this authoritarian boot stomp heel. They're going to point guns at everybody. And so when the employee of McDonald's comes out of McDonald's, he immediately is subjected to a POW style of arrest. So now let me show you something very, very important. So I'm gonna zoom in super tight here because we only need this little part here, okay? The right of the people to be secure in their person against unreasonable searches and seizures. Fourth Amendment, right of the people to be secure in their person against unreasonable searches and seizures. Okay? So when the guy from McDonald's came out the other day, right? And you guys saw, if you didn't see, you should look at it. Guns to his head, knees in his neck, POW style of arrest. Immediately, we're suspicious of him. He hasn't broken a law that we know of, but we think maybe he might have. And so immediately you enter a POW style of arrest. And so you say, how come that can happen? How come that can happen? Because of Terry versus Ohio. When the Supreme Court upheld the Constitution, I told you, officer safety has been added to our Bill of Rights. It supersedes all rights. You can have a Second Amendment as long as officer safety is not in question. I've said this time and time again. You can be free in your person unless it's in the name of officer safety, and that's what leads us to the McDonald's worker. He can be free in his person unless officer safety could be at risk. And so that then enters a SWAT team with AR-15s and laser scopes, get on your knees, get on your belly, a POW style of arrest. Terry, when the supreme tyranny up here said that you can create a detention space, that's what they said. That's what Terry does. It allows a temporary, involuntary detention and a light pat down based on officer safety. That's what Earl Warren did, and that's what the Warren Court did. This guy who looks like a white supremacist, he's a Freemason, and he's a total piece of garbage. He's the white liberal that every single person's ever warned you about. He wants to control everybody and everything. He wants to be the boss of everybody. He's a piece of shit. He's burning in hell. So here's the Warren Court. What they do is they do a couple things here. They replace the probable cause standard of the Fourth Amendment, and they put officer safety over your rights, and they allow police officers to do a light pat down on the front of your body to make sure you don't have any weapons in the name of officer safety. Now, when the Supreme Court created in the name of officer safety, the policy that's created by the Warren Court, the police around the country in your state, your city, your town then adopted police policies based around officer safety. So if you ever walk behind a cop and he says, "Don't walk behind me, officer safety." If you've ever seen a cop where he says, "Oh, don't go behind my car," some ridiculous, stupid shit, they constantly do it in the name of officer safety. Because that's the Supreme Court holding. So everything's in the name of officer safety. There's nothing that's not in the name of officer safety. So how bad can this get? How bad could this possibly get? In the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor, using the mantra of officer safety, they then determined that the use of force on every police stop in every city, every town in America, from Alaska to Hawaii to Puerto Rico to Guam, every single police interaction that you have, the officer on the scene will determine the appropriate amount of force to use on you. Let me give you the holding exactly. The reasonable officer on the scene will use objective, reasonable amount of force. So the reasonable officer can use objectively reasonable. What does that mean specifically? Objectively reasonable force. That means that he can create in his mind, and this is listed in the holding, that you may have killed somebody before this interaction. That you may have just killed your parents and put them in a broom closet. That you may have just robbed the bank down the road where the alarm is going off. So the objective reasonableness of the officer is based on the reasonable probable cause that he's created in his mind. I'm not making this up. What the officer believes in his mind about you is the amount of objective reasonable force that can be used against you. And so you say that happens in 1989. That could not be true. The reason why Rodney King's picture is right above Graham versus Connor is because this happens in 1989. In 1993, America watches as a half a dozen cops tee off on this guy like his head is a baseball and they're playing t-ball. And the cops all walk. Not guilty. They used the objectional reasonable force from the Graham v. Connor holding, and they said he wouldn't stay down on the ground. We were ordering him to comply. He wouldn't stay on the ground. We were in fear for our lives as they beat him with nightsticks, and we all watched. What's changed? Nothing. The only thing that's changed is now we get a body cam footage of Ronald Green being beaten to death. Now we get an up-close video of Eric Garner being choked out. Cops are still working. Cop eventually got fired, got back pay, the whole thing. Not guilty. Not guilty. Because why? Because of the unelected Supreme Court. Don't you lose focus. No matter how much it pisses you off, no matter how much you have a hard time respecting the police officers in America, no justice, no peace, no racist police gets you and me zero. It pushes away the conservatives who have to vote with us. It pushes away anybody who would support us. It doesn't get the police, who a lot of them want to change this shit. It doesn't get them to come and join us. It pushes them away. So what we have to ask for, and I made a video about this, it's on my YouTube called Change the Messaging, Tell Your Friends. It's on my YouTube. Watch the video on my YouTube. This is Tell Your Friends, Change the Messaging. Martin Luther King Jr., what he did is he got legislation passed. Can you imagine that? What they did is they got legislation passed. Legislation. Now the Supreme Court took it away. Okay. Brown versus Board of Education is a Supreme Court holding. that did nothing really for black people other than let them mill around the country and face the KKK. The 1964 Civil Rights Act changed things. Legislation. This is a Supreme Court holding that just had black folks drifting around. From 1954 to 1964, dead man's town. Dead man's town. The police, who were previously the lynchmen, are now supposed to be desegregating America, but they refuse. So the National Guard is called in time and time and time again. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an unelected Supreme Court that absolutely refuses to uphold the Bill of Rights, and we have to elect them. We have to break them up into 6 different districts. 6 different districts, so you dilute the power of the appointed elite monarchs. They don't work for you and me. They work against us. They work against us. They work against liberty. They work against freedom. Because power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's a fact from anybody. Just so you know, policing in America will not get better until there's a third-party organization that is over the top of cops. Checks and balances on power. Until we have a checks and balances system on a power, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. You can forget it. I don't care how many body cams you put on, we're just going to get to watch them die. Because the Supreme Court laws allow police to kill you legally. The police aren't breaking the law. The police are working within the law created. The system is working as intended. And the killings of citizens, it's increasing. It's been increasing every year for a decade. And why is that? Because the police can legally kill you, and the police unions protect them, and there's no oversight. The last one, not Floyd's killer, which, by the way, George Floyd's death, but nothing happens without the camera. George Floyd's death, he just dies. Without people recording that, there's nothing. Besides this one, Elijah McClain, they just got arrested. How many of the other ones, though? How many of the other ones? Well, how come that is? I mean, we saw the murder. We saw it. It was a murder. I mean, who didn't see Terrence Crutcher? Who did not see Terrence Crutcher? Did you not see Terrence Crutcher? Did he not get shot in the back of the head with his hands up in South Carolina by Betty Shelby on camera as he had to... Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention the most important part. Terrence Crutcher was ordered out of the car because of Pennsylvania versus Mims, a Supreme Court holding of constitutionality that says that you have to get out of the car. Pennsylvania versus Mims is an extension of Terry v. Ohio. You have to get out of the car in the name of officer safety. If ordered out of the car, just so you know, you have to get out of the car in the name of officer safety. This is a Supreme Court holding. It is a felony if you don't get out of the car. It's a Supreme Court holding. I didn't make it up, okay? Just pisses me off. What the fuck? I mean, how much longer we put up with this dog shit? I mean, how much longer does this shit go on? It's just such crap. I mean, how much longer does this go on? When does shit change? When does this shit change? This is such bullshit. You have to watch this shit week in, week out. A new hashtag this week. I'll get a phone call. I'll get a phone call. Hey, Chili, did you hear about this one? Another hashtag rains down. But yet, we keep saying the stupid shit that doesn't matter. What matters is overturning Terry. Now let me go a little deeper. So Terrence Crutcher gets out of the car because he's ordered out of the car in Pennsylvania versus Mims. Now, that's in the name of officer safety, because Pennsylvania versus Mims, it can't exist without Terry versus Ohio. So Terry versus Ohio makes him get out of the car. He gets out of the car, puts his hand on the back of his head. Betty Shelby is just this little 5-foot tiny girl in South Carolina, little tiny woman, but she says she fears for her life. He's got his back to her. He's facing his own car. It's on camera. It's on camera. What's Betty Shelby doing now? Teaching classes of how to handle an encounter that you might have to shoot someone. Betty Shelby said she was in fear for her life. Graham versus Connor says the officers can use objective reasonableness based on if they're in fear for their life or not. How much fear for their life they have is how much objective reasonableness they have for you. And then we all saw Philando Castile. He was sitting in his car. He said, I got a concealed carry license. And then the cop blew him away. And it's on camera. It's on camera. It was within 100 seconds of being pulled over, he was murdered, and the jury acquitted the cop within 15 minutes. That's how effective your George Floyd bill is going to be. That's how effective the George Floyd bill. That's how effective it'll be. Your George Floyd bill will be as effective as Philando Castile's trial. That's how effective your George Floyd bill will be. Meanwhile, one more little point I just forgot to mention. 9 out of 10 of the people on the wall right there are from Terry stops. 9 out of 10 people in the dungeon start off as Terry stops. Maybe we should change the messaging to overturn Terry. Maybe we should all tell our friends about Terry versus Ohio. Maybe we should start a national conversation. I'm just saying maybe. I mean, do you think maybe? I mean, I don't mean to be condescending, but I just got pissed off. When I go into the people who died, okay. Go by my website, you guys, Delete Laws, get a copy of this wall graphic, get a copy of my ebook. I do have to sell 10 of these a day on Saturday and Sunday, 10 on Saturday, 10 on Sunday to keep the lights on in this place. So if you guys can buy one, great. Thank you. YouTube, Instagram, you guys are watching this. You guys are dropping your email for me to send you a free ebook. I'm not going to do it anymore. You have to go by the website. You have to go by the website, YouTube. Hey, YouTubers, don't drop your email address down here. Don't put it here. Do not drop your email address here so I have your contact. What that does, and the reason why I'll give away the downloads that I have, is so that I can build a coalition of people who are really passionate. Because you don't have to have $20 to march down the street. You don't have to have $20 to have a cousin or a loved one or someone that you care about who's been locked away for marijuana because Scalia and Ginsburg were a couple of tyrants that you didn't know that. You didn't know that. You didn't know that. How could you have known that? You didn't study this shit your whole life. It's not you. You're not bad. You're a good person. No one told you this. But now that we can assemble on a massive scale and 100,000 people a weekend will come through this live, 100,000 people every weekend are watching me teach the exact same lesson that I'll teach again tomorrow and I'll teach again the next day. If you want a t-shirt, you do have to DM me. I took them off my website. I am not going to be piecemealed t-shirts. If I do have t-shirts in stock if you want one, but you have to DM me because you don't understand. I have a mission here. I can't be putting t-shirts in a package. I can be creating content that can somehow sway somebody to have them open their eyes that it's Terry. So I can't waste time putting t-shirts in packages. I have to create a movement, so we march on DC in 2022. We march on Washington in 2022, peacefully assembling, peacefully petitioning the government, because we want to overturn Terry and we want to elect the Supreme Court. If you want to be my t-shirt distributor, you got to drop me a DM. We'll talk about it. Go through my website. It's easier for me. I type 80 words a minute on my keyboard. I type 80 words a minute. Bow, 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 bow. On my thumbs, I type like 20 words a minute. This is easier for me. I'm over 40, baby. I'm over 40. I'm over 40. I'm over 40. This is better for me, guys, okay? So go through my website. If you guys want to buy me a cup of coffee, there's my Venmo and my Cash App. YouTuber and Instagrammers, you're welcome. Go ahead, right there. Don't go crazy, man. I'm talking like a cup of coffee here, right? Don't break your piggy bank. Take a screenshot of that. Take a screenshot of that, all right? I'm not going to stay here all day, right? There it is. Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. So now you guys know. I don't know who's been here since the beginning. Anybody been here? Anybody been? Oh, I put as many filters as I can on. All my teeth are fake, so, you know, it is what it is. I'm just a regular person, man. Fortunately and unfortunately for me, all of the facade of trying to be super cool or be fake or try to puff up and be someone I'm not, fortunately for me, all that shit's gone. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. I'm a man on a mission and I will not be stopped. I don't care what you... So someone sent me someone through my website the other day sent me something, right? My response was a one-line letter. I don't give a fuck what you think. That was my response. So they sent me this thing. It was 3 or 4 paragraphs that started off with some hate. I just read the first 3 lines of hate and then I said, I don't give a fuck what you think, and I sent it. I don't care what you think. I don't give a shit what you think. You have not put your life study into this. You have not done that, and I have. So your idea, if you're a plumber, I'll ask you. You want to talk to someone and say to you, oh, I know all there is to know about policing. Have you read the 3 police commissions? Do you know anything about them? I hate to be cynical. I'm sorry. I just got pissed off about when I was talking about those people getting killed because of the loss. It just pissed me off. It put me in a freaking, it's like, I'm talking about it and it's real. Today, someone will be held down by the police with the knees in the back of their neck when you can just put them on camera and say you're on camera. Just stand right there. And they'll stand right there because they don't want the judge to see them on camera acting like an idiot because the judge can put them in a dungeon. So the cop, all he has to do, in today's world, the police no longer have to grab you and handcuff you. That no longer has to happen. I walk up to you from the cop, I hold out my camera, and I go, hey, you're being detained. Stand right there for me, please. What's going on, officer? There's an alarm going off. They said a guy in a blue polo shirt just robbed that bank. Okay, officer, I certainly did not rob the bank. I don't want to answer any questions, but I made a statement that I did not rob the bank. I'll stand right here for you. And then a car drives by that has tinted windows, and the bank teller is in the car. She looks at me, and she tells the officer, he didn't rob the bank. And then they let me go. That's called digital detainment. And what that does then is it creates a real apparatus for community policing. Because then, if you do flee, I just say to you, dude, you're going to run off. I'm going to put your picture on social media and say you fled detainment. That it could have been you that robbed the bank, and you fled. I'm not going to chase you, dude. There's not going to be no chase from me. What's going to happen is a network of cameras are going to track you, and then when you go to work, you're going to come out, there's going to be 2 cops standing there. You're going to go home, there's going to be 2 cops at your house. You're going to try to go grocery shopping, and we're going to stand in your way of the line until you comply with us through patience and peace. That's the new way. That's the new way. The new way is all digital. Remember what I said to you, and people are like, oh, and so many people are afraid of this surveillance state. We're not China. We're not going into a credit system. But the reason why, just so you guys know, the reason why there's thousands and thousands of people who come by this page, and the reason why we know about all their deaths is because of video. The reason why George Floyd, his killer, was prosecuted was because of a video. The reason why Sandra Bland never got justice, but at least we know about her, is because of video. The reason why you and I can record police is because we have the ability. It changes everything. Video changes everything. And you guys we have to buy into that together. Digital detainment changes everything. So just so you guys know, let me be specific about that. So now we've talked about Graham versus Connor a little bit. Now let me give you guys another context here. Graham versus Connor, the Supreme Court holding, what the Supreme Court personnel said was that often police are forced to make split-second decisions. Stop. No, they're not. Not anymore. Not in the digital era. You get a phone call and you go, hey, this guy over here, he's beating his wife and he's got a gun. Great. Go grab her. Go get her. Go pick up the victim, put her in protective bulletproof shields. Same thing with the cops. Surround that guy. Surround him. Protect yourself with protective gear around you. You can't be shot. This shield protects me from being shot. Put him on camera. Sir, you've hit your wife. You're on camera, sir. The judge is going to see this. Let him do what he's going to do. You can't control people. Then the cops are no longer the bad guys. They didn't touch him. The guy beat his wife. No one respects that. Nobody respects you beating your wife, bro. The cops come, get her. Get her out. Grab her. You're not going for him. You're going for her. Let him play himself out. Let's see if he's criminally insane or he's just having a meltdown with his wife. There's a difference between criminally insane and a guy who smacks his wife, which is horrible. And there's a difference between a guy who's criminally insane and can't learn, can't go through counseling, can't become a better person, can't realize that he watched his dad hit mom, and so now he's hitting his wife. He's not equating that. He never got taught. And so instead of ruining that person, give him a chance to show if he's criminally insane. A criminally insane person, when you say, hey, stop, the judge is watching you, they'll do whatever they want because they have no barometer for being in a society where you're going to be held accountable. They're insane. Meanwhile, what we're seeing now, and what you saw the other day when I went out and audited that cop, when the cops are jumping on top of people, nobody respects that. Not in a digital era. Before we saw it, it was fine, wasn't it? Wasn't it? I mean, before we saw this, before we saw Rodney King, it was fine. Because it wasn't happening in your community. It was fine. It was no big deal. Graham versus Connor says that use of force will be determined by the reasonable officer on the scene. Well, what's the case based on? What's the fundamentals of the Graham versus Connor case? DeThorne Graham is a black man. He looks a lot like Rodney King, by the way. DeThorne Graham is a black man. The officer's name is Connor. That's the Supreme Court case of Graham versus Connor. Graham is having a diabetic episode. You ready for this? You ready for this? You ready for this? Graham goes into a convenience store to buy some orange juice. The line is 30 people long, so he runs back out because he's having a diabetic episode. He can feel it coming on. So he runs right back out. The cop, Terry, stops him. You can't make this shit up. The cop, Terry, stops DeThorne Graham. It's real, friends. It's been going on since the beginning. So this is 1984. The year is 1984 when DeThorne Graham is Terry stopped. The Supreme Court holding comes out in 1989. DeThorne Graham gets the shit beat out of him. Connor, the cop, I showed this in my video. On my YouTube page, the opening video is the documentary I made last year. I made a reenactment of DeThorne Graham's scene. It's on my YouTube page. It's the opening video. I make a reenactment of DeThorne Graham. Okay? So DeThorne Graham, just so you know, if you want to actually see what actually happened to him, I make a reenactment of his case. So after, just so you know, you can watch a scene on my YouTube page called The Terry Era. It's about midway through when they're in a 1950s Mercedes. But right here, DeThorne Graham, they beat the shit out of him. They break his foot, they pop his ribs, they crack his head. They beat the shit out of him. They Terry stop him because he ran in and out of a convenience store. Because you know back then in '84, of course, the black guy robbed the convenience store, which he did not. But he tells them, I'm having a diabetic episode. I got my diabetic card here. They beat the shit out of him. They bust his foot. A broken foot. My foot doesn't break on its own. They break his foot. They crack his head. They pop his ribs. Then they take him home after they beat the shit out of him and drop him off at home. He's convulsing and going through a diabetic seizure. His ribs are popped. His foot's broken. He goes to the hospital. His ribs are popped. His cartilage is popped. His head's cracked open. His foot's busted. He's got a black eye. He's beat up. The cops went to check on him for a diabetic episode to see if he robbed the 7-Eleven. When they found out he didn't, they beat the shit out of him and dropped him off at home. So then the case goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says that whatever cop is on the scene can use objectively reasonable force. That's how bad it is. That's what they do. That's what they do. Cops didn't make that up. The cop went there and fought and said, no, I wasn't doing it. At the Supreme Court, they don't fight. They just talk about the constitutionality of law. So the question was, how much use of force is appropriate? Because I'm confusing it with Johnson versus Glick, 1980 case of Johnson versus Glick, but I'm just cross-referencing them in my head. So, yeah. Yep. So you guys make sure you go by my website. If you guys go by there, pick up a copy of this wall graphic or get my ebook. I really do appreciate your support. And if you don't have any cash, don't worry about it. You can still go buy that at deletelaws.com and just register and I'll give it to you absolutely for free. It won't cost you anything. As long as you promise to learn and teach a kid, you know what I mean? And that you're going to say overturn Terry from now on. How's everybody doing today? Where are you guys at? Is this the same room? Anybody here from the beginning? Because this was a really good lesson. I feel really good about this. And now because my TikTok keeps getting suspended for no reason, so this time I screen recorded this and I mic'd it. So you know what? Now you can do whatever you guys want with my feed because now I've screen recorded it from now on. I'm not. My whole week was screwed because my account got suspended multiple times. my whole week. And then the video I made this morning, TikTok notified me that the video was corroded. So it's like, you know, I don't understand what's going on in our country. I do understand the Supreme Court. I understand what's going on with that. And if we don't all get together on this, it's not going to get better. It won't get any better. It won't get any better. Yeah, I'm banned all the time. Go to my YouTube page. Watch those 3 episodes of Overturn Terry. Watch the first 3 episodes of Overturn Terry on my YouTube page. Really good. Really good. Yeah, I'm screen recording from now on because I can't ever keep my TikTok on. They suspend my account constantly. Have I said anything wrong today? I mean, I'm shocked I didn't get suspended. Delete laws with a Z. Delete laws with a Z. It's a Z. It's also deletelaws.com, L-A-W-Z, deletelaws.com. And I have got to get out of here for a little while. I'm going to take a walk, maybe get a little exercise in. I'll be on later tonight, guys. I'll be on later tonight. Moderators, thank you guys so much for all of your help. I'm super, super grateful. If you guys were able to pick up a wall graphic or an ebook, I really appreciate it. Thank you a bunch. This is not a lucrative business. This is not a rich man's job. This is a guy who has to be completely dedicated or it just won't work. Because anybody else tries it, this is a struggle and it's hard. But it has to get done and someone has to spearhead it. And I'm going to spearhead it until a real black leader emerges. And then it's really, truly, it's a black leaders. It's a Martin Luther King moment here. I'm searching for the great black leader who takes this data and makes it his own. I'm searching for that great black leader. I'm looking for him or her or they or them or a trans person. I have no objection to who can lead this. But I do think it has to be a person of color or an indigenous person. I think that I can only lead it so far. We need a person of color to lead this. I'm waiting for the great leader to emerge who says, I've taken this guy's data, he's correct, I'm famous, whoever that person is, and they take this ball and they score. And we overturn Terry and we move to the 28th Amendment to make the Supreme Court electable. I'm looking for that great black leader, that great Indian, that great Native American, the great Asian, the great person of color, because the white people created this. We did this. My family did this. We did this. We take responsibility here. If you guys have never heard Charles Gordon's speech after the September 15th Birmingham bombings, I just cut it together. I'm going to put it out. I'm going to put it out without me on it at all. I'm just going to put Charles Gordon's speech out that he made on September 16th, 1963, the day after the Birmingham bombings killed those 4 little girls. And a bunch of other bombings too, but just the 4 little girls. The next day, Charles Gordon came out and made this big speech. He would go on to become an attorney for the ACLU, for the Southern District, and would spearhead multiple civil rights cases. So I can lead legally. It looks like I'm going to end up becoming a lawyer pretty soon. There's going to be no choice for me because I have to fight this fight until the end. So there's a 99.9% chance. I'm already looking. I'm already getting the emails and stuff. I've thought about moving to New Haven, Connecticut. I'm thinking about moving to New Haven, Connecticut, spending a year there studying for the LSAT and then applying to Yale. That's what I'm considering. Because the power that be, unfortunately, exists in the Ivy League schools. And so all I have to do is score in the top 5% of the LSAT and then I can get into Yale, which I definitely can do. I definitely can do it. So that's what I think that's my overall plan here. I'm going to try to get a Netflix deal that will yield us a 7-figure deal so that could pay for school, but at the same time, I'm going to push this until January, and then at that point, I'm going to push for that Netflix deal, Hulu deal, Amazon deal, and then after that, I would love to meet with Kim Kardashian. I've said that earlier today. I would love to meet with Kim Kardashian. She just stopped being a lawyer, stopped her pursuit of becoming a lawyer, but what she doesn't realize, or she may realize it, I have a lot of respect for her for what she's done as far as getting people out of prison, and what she doesn't understand, I have an apparatus that we could build together, Kim and I, that I could then create a way to get hundreds of people out of prison every year. Hundreds, through a farming system that I created, a technology system that I created using Kim's popularity to bring people into a podcast based on relationship drama, I mean, this isn't something I just am saying out loud because I don't have it all planned out. I have a project I could do with Kim Kardashian that would get hundreds of people out of prison every year. Hundreds. She just has to use her fame properly to crowdsource multiple people who are dedicated to the cause of ending this incarceration nation. I am against the caging system in any way. The people who are criminally insane that belong institutionalized do not belong in the dungeons we've created today. They belong in a facility for the mentally insane. But I don't believe in caging human beings for crimes. I don't think that's the appropriate way. I'm more of a John Locke philosopher in the terms of show me the character of a man and I'll show you how much education he has. I am not for caging and dungeoning people. I do not support that ever. It's the worst system. And until we get checks and balances on cops, we're fucked. Okay. Kim Kardashian would be one hell of a meeting because I have an apparatus I've already designed the apparatus that Kim would spearhead. It wouldn't even, I don't think I would even be on the platform. I mean, I'll participate because I have to build it, but I wouldn't be on it. It's a podcast that talks about relationship drama, but it's a very specific funnel. It's a very specific funnel, and that's the most important part. That's the most important part. I don't know if I can get on Rogan. I'm not famous. I don't know if I could. I'm not famous. I'm nobody. Remember that. I'm a peon, guys. I'm a peon. P-E-O-N. I'm a peon. I literally am a peon, and most of you are too. I'm sorry. Unless you're a multimillionaire who pays for candidates to get elected, then you're considered a peon by the government. They don't care about you and me at all whatsoever. Not even kind of, sort of. There's no care for you because you don't have a legitimacy. You don't have enough money to be important, you know. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out for a couple hours. I will see you guys in a couple of, maybe 2 hours. I'm gonna try to get a workout in. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm showing the other 2 rooms today of my studio here. So I'm gonna try to rent out these other 2 rooms and keep this big space. I'm only here because the landlady hasn't kicked me out. I've moved my stuff to the other office. So I'm only here because the landlady has not booted me. She's allowed me to use this wall space, but I have most of my other stuff in the other smaller office now. So I'm gonna try to rent out the other 2 rooms and keep this space, you know, so I don't have to rebuild this wall. Yep, she seems nicer than she's nicer than she seems, that's for sure. That's the best way to put it. All right, did you guys go by my website? Did you guys get a copy of this wall graphic or ebook? If you can't afford it or you don't have any money, just go ahead and send me an email through there. You guys got everything. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. Moderators, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really barely even looked at the screen today. I just had a real specific lecture I wanted to give, so I gave it, okay? Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you guys. God bless. Later.